There are just 4 events left of the 9 which form this year's British National Rally Championship. And for the first time ever, a lady is burning up the roads in the lead. Haverfordwest farmer David Llewellyn, in 5th place, could make a late bid for the title with points from the next event. That's the Rally Radio Link Mewla stages, organised by the Aberystwyth and Epynt motor clubs over the bank holiday weekend. But another Welshman, Phil Collins, is even better placed to close the gap on Rally Queen Louise. The 100 miles of tarmac road being used on the Army ranges near Brecon should suit the powerful Opel Manta of Phil Collins. Speeds over 120 miles an hour are expected in Britain's fastest car rally, and Phil can put his foot down hard on the loud pedal, as he showed when winning the Isle of Man event recently. Yet another Welshman, Bob Fowden of Llanelli, is the current leader of the Castrol Motoring News Championship in his beefy Rover SD1. He prefers those events, all of them on fast tarmac roads. But he's also an aggressive competitor in the mixed events of the Shell Auto Sport Championship. And he shares the views on lady drivers of his friend and rival, Phil Collins.
Phil, you're lying 3rd in the championship at the moment, but 2 women leading the race. How do you feel about that?
Well, we get asked this question a lot, you know, and eventually one just has to live with it. When one says, you know, a couple of girls, they think of a couple of amateur girls come off the street and jumping in this car and driving it. Well, it's not quite that way. In fact, Louise Aitken and Ellen Morgan have themselves a lot of international and national competition, a lot of experience, and without question, they're 2 very, very competent girls. I mean, Louise has been a Ford Works driver now for 2 seasons, and then it's in itself gives you an indication of the level of girl that we're talking about.
Does that inspire a little extra urgency amongst you men drivers, though?
But of course, that's right. Nobody likes being beaten, let alone by a woman, dare I say it, in front of a camera. But that is the way it is. But Louise is leading the championship at this particular moment as a result of consistent finishes, whereas other people who may on occasions be capable of slightly more speed have been much less consistent. Winning championships is not about winning rallies or winning stages, but consistency right through. The car has been totally reliable, and you know, and that must be said in favour of the people who built the car, because it was built just for this season and it has been completely reliable for her. And this obviously plays a big part in it. From my own angle, I haven't been so reliable, shall we say. It's only been minor things that have let us down, but we've failed to finish 1 rally, and 2 others I feel finished well down the field as a result of certain things going wrong. But that is the way it is. You know, we see regularly Formula 1 racing, and I'm sure all the viewers at home have seen this at 10:30 on a Sunday night, and we see people like Renault who have a £20 million budget for the season. And they constantly break down. So I'm sure there's room for a privateer such as ourselves to have the occasional misdemeanor.
Bob Fowden faced such a problem in the Peter Russick rally. He finished 3rd, driving the last 8 miles on a wheel rim after losing a tyre with a blowout. That despite his pre-rally preparations.
Basically, the vehicles are very, very similar, but the suspension changes are made between tarmac and forestry, and the type of tyres you use, obviously, they're the greatest importance. You don't use a tarmac tyre in the forestry and vice versa. That's the most important aspect, is the tyres, I think.
What sort of an engine have you got under the bonnet there? What sort of horsepower do you develop? What sort of speeds does the vehicle do?
Well, on this sort of terrain, last week on the event that we won here, we were covering speeds in excess of 140 miles an hour, which is... the car's capable of a lot greater higher speed, but we also arrange the gearing so that we've got acceleration as well. As to the power of the engine, you're talking about 340 brake horsepower, which a standard Rover V8 develops about 160, so it's a considerable increase. Basically, to look at it, looks like a standard Rover, but the shells are specially prepared and specially strengthened. The type of axles you use are very, very special. As I mentioned earlier, the engine, the position of the engine is moved further back than on a standard one. Type of steering, we don't use power steering on rally cars, by the way. So that's one of the aspects. The car's a little bit heavy, but once you're in a speed over 50 miles an hour, the steering becomes very light, especially when you're in a skid.
What is the margin of error in cornering and that sort of thing?
Oh, very little around here. You know, you've got to be very, very careful, and this is one of the most dangerous rally circuits in Britain. There's been several severe accidents here,
This weekend, it's the 6th in the series, the Rally Radio Link Mewla stages on the tarmac roads of the Epint military ranges up at Llanwrtyd Wells. Hugh Johns talked to David about his chances and about the change of car that seems to have brought him a change of luck.
The Opel was a far smoother car. It rode the bumps a lot better, and it gave you the impression that you were going slower and safer than the Escort. But of course you were going as quickly, if not faster. But it did give you the impression it was a safer car inside, and it is a little bit smoother over the bumps and more controllable.
Well, you've had your problems, of course, this season, but you seem to have ironed them out now. What about this big rally here now, the next one?
It's a tarmac event, and it is a very fast event, and probably more suited to the Opel, as the tarmac is so fast, and the top speed is greater, and the bumps, and it's generally a better car for the job than the Escort. But I've run out of cash for the Opel, so I've got to go back to the old Steed.
Right. Tell me, how much chance do you get to practice on the circuit before an event?
You're not allowed to practice, so the only practice you can get is by doing events up here. And I've only actually done 2 events up here ever, so my knowledge of the ranges isn't so good as Phil Collins and Bob Fowden, so I'll be settling for a place behind them, I think.
Right. What about your co-driver now? Who is he?
I've got a local co-driver with good knowledge of the ranges, especially for this event, so hopefully he'll be able to help me around by telling me exactly what the corners are like.
I was going to say, how do you plan the race with him then? What happened to the rally rather, not the race?
Well, you know, at the beginning of the stage, I've got a certain amount of knowledge of the ranges. We say, we get the little map out of where the stages are going, and we sit down and we say, talk our way, if you like, through the stage, exactly where it's going.
When you say that, a question of exact points to change gears and that sort of thing?
No, not that is down to the driver on the stage at this certain time. We talk about the corners, the nasty bits, and where we're turning onto different roads, because they've all got their names, the roads, and there's only 4 or 5 different roads which you use again and again, so you do get to know them very well, and you can talk your way through the stage before the start of the stage.
And he's more or less shouting to you as you're going what's coming up?
Yes, well, his knowledge is so good of the ranges, he can tell me exactly every corner as you come into it, and every brow what is over the other side of the brow, which is a great help when you've got somebody there that knows it so well.
And in fact, it's not only the chase for top places that makes Sunday's event so interesting, because also on view is a car that's still very much in the trial and testing stage, but could well turn out to be something very special. It's the development Ford RS 1600 of Mark Lovell, and the Somerset driver is only too happy to talk about its qualities.
Well, it's got a lot of potential. It's at the moment it's very new in its concept. We've only been actually testing it for about 3 months, so next year hopefully we'll have a competitive Group A car.
Tell me, is this the sort of motor car that the ordinary man in the street is going to be able to buy in a year's time, 18 months' time, something like that?
Yes, hopefully in about 18 months' time, depending on the concept we choose on. I mean, there's a lot to be chosen from yet. We have to make the things match with the factory to be made. You know, you've got to make 5,000 a second or whatever.
Well, it says Ford Escort on the side. I mean, how different is this going to be from what we know as a Ford Escort at the moment?
Well, the group that we're going for is Group A, which is meant to be very similar to the production car. So hopefully in the long term, you will actually be able to buy a car very similar to this from your local dealer as such.
As quick as this one?
Well, no, obviously this one's tuned up a bit more than the standard road car will be, about 30% more.
What sort of speeds can you get out of this motor car?
Well, top speed's limited to the gear ratio that you choose, but about 125, something like that.
But you're not actually rallying this car this year at the moment, are you?
No, we're just running a development program at the moment.
But will it be on view in this event?
Yes, it will be. It'll be there for everybody to view.
But this is a sort of special dispensation, is it?
No, not as such. I mean, it's just one of many events we're doing in the programme towards developing the car for next year.
And she's equipped for the tarmac rather than the forest road sort of rallies.
Oh, yes, definitely. We haven't got to the forestry bit yet, so that's next.